Hi, beautiful souls. Before we go anywhere today, before we think, analyze, or try to understand, let's begin with something simple and honest. Take a slow breath in through your nose, letting it travel all the way down into your belly. And then exhale gently, like you're releasing something you've been carrying for far too long. Stay here for a moment. Because what we're really talking about today isn't just breathing. It's remembering. Remembering something ancient. Something your body has never forgotten, even if your mind has been trained to ignore it. It's about reconnecting with a rhythm that has always known how to calm you, regulate you, and bring you back into balance, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. We live in a world that constantly pulls us outward. Faster. Louder. More demanding. More stimulating. And without realizing it, many of us are moving through our lives in a subtle state of alarm, breathing shallowly, holding tension in the jaw, the shoulders, the belly. The body interprets this shallow, constricted breathing as danger. And when the body believes it is in danger, it does exactly what it evolved to do. It prioritizes survival over healing. Muscles tighten. Fascia stiffens. Digestion slows. Immune function becomes secondary. Hormones shift toward stress rather than repair. Over time, this doesn't just make us feel anxious or tired, it creates the biological conditions for disease. But here's the quiet truth most of us were never taught. The moment you slow your breath, your entire internal environment begins to change. Deep, slow breathing sends a signal of safety through the nervous system. The vagus nerve activates, telling the body it no longer needs to stay on high alert. The parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest, digestion, immune repair, and regeneration, comes online. Blood pressure begins to drop. Heart rate variability improves. Inflammation decreases. Healing becomes biologically possible again. This isn't modern self-help. This is measurable physiology. What's fascinating is that long before we had brain scans, hormone assays, or nervous system terminology, ancient cultures already understood this. They may not have used the language of neuroscience, but they understood the intelligence of the breath in a way that modern life has largely forgotten. In yoga, breath is not a side note. It is the foundation. Ancient yogis didn't see breathing as something passive or automatic, they saw it as conscious life force. They called it prana. And they believed that prana was the organizing intelligence behind health, vitality, and clarity of mind. In the yogic view, illness wasn't just a physical malfunction. It was often seen as stagnation, blocked energy, restricted flow, unresolved emotion, or disconnection from the deeper self. Breath was the remedy because breath restored movement where there had been contraction. This is why yoga has always paired breath with posture. Not to create flexibility for its own sake, but to create safety. A slow inhale gently expands tissue. A long exhale softens resistance. Over time, the body begins to release its armor, not because it's being forced, but because it finally feels safe enough to let go. And when the body lets go, it often reveals something deeper than muscle tension. This is where fascia becomes essential to understand. Fascia is the connective tissue that wraps every muscle, organ, nerve, and bone. But describing it as connective tissue barely captures its importance. Fascia is one continuous web throughout the entire body, often described by researchers as a single organ of form. It transmits force. It stores information. It responds to emotional and neurological states. Emerging research suggests fascia plays a major role in pain, posture, movement, and even emotional memory. Stress thickens fascia. Trauma densifies it. Chronic vigilance causes it to lose hydration and elasticity. This is why someone can stretch every day and still feel tight, because the issue isn't muscular effort, it's nervous system tone. Here's where breath becomes transformative. Slow, deep breathing increases carbon dioxide tolerance, improves oxygen exchange, and stimulates mechanoreceptors embedded in fascial tissue. This encourages fascia to rehydrate, soften, and regain its elastic properties. When fascia releases, circulation improves. Nerves glide more freely. Pain often decreases, not gradually, but sometimes suddenly. This is why people cry in yoga classes without knowing why. Why old injuries begin to resolve when no one is working on them. Why emotions surface during breathwork sessions. Fascia doesn't just hold structure, it holds history. The body remembers what the mind tried to forget. Modern science is now validating what ancient wisdom has long suggested. Studies published in peer-reviewed medical journals show that slow diaphragmatic breathing significantly improves heart rate variability, a key marker of nervous system health and resilience. Higher HRV is associated with reduced inflammation, improved emotional regulation, and greater adaptability to stress. Research has also demonstrated that controlled breathing directly reduces cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. In one randomized controlled trial, participants who practiced slow breathing showed measurable reductions in stress hormones and inflammatory markers after exposure to a stressor, compared to those who did not engage in breath regulation. Another compelling study found that slow breathing enhanced vagal tone across age groups, with especially pronounced benefits in older adults. This is significant because vagal tone is strongly linked to longevity, immune function, and emotional stability. In other words, breathing doesn't just make you feel calm, it changes your biology. Neuroscience adds another layer. Controlled breathing influences brain activity by shifting neural patterns away from fear-based circuits and toward regulatory networks in the prefrontal cortex. This is why breathwork can reduce anxiety, improve focus, and even alter emotional responses to past trauma. This is also where the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza enters the conversation. Joe Dispenza teaches that when we slow the breath and quiet analytical thinking, we shift brainwave states from high beta into alpha and theta, states associated with learning, creativity, and deep internal change. In these states, the subconscious mind becomes accessible. The body becomes receptive. In his research-based workshops, people have demonstrated measurable changes in immune markers, gene expression, and neurological patterns after learning to regulate their breath and nervous system. Some have experienced remission from chronic illness. Others have healed long-standing pain or neurological conditions. What's important to understand is that these changes didn't occur because people forced their bodies to heal. They occurred because people created the internal conditions for healing to emerge. This idea mirrors something Abraham Hicks has been teaching for decades, that well-being is not something we have to create, but something we allow. According to Abraham, resistance is what blocks health, clarity, and joy. And one of the fastest ways to release resistance is through conscious breathing. When you breathe deeply, you stop fighting the present moment. When you stop fighting, alignment returns. And when alignment returns, the body responds naturally. Every inhale becomes an invitation. Every exhale becomes a letting go. This is why breathing feels spiritual even when you strip away belief systems. It brings you back into coherence with yourself. Interestingly, this same principle appears in Stoic philosophy, though expressed through a different lens. Stoicism has surged in popularity in recent years because people are overwhelmed, overstimulated, emotionally flooded. Stoicism offers stability by teaching people to regulate their internal world regardless of external chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote repeatedly about returning to stillness. Seneca emphasized tranquility of mind. Epictetus taught that suffering comes not from events, but from our interpretation of them. What modern science now confirms is that interpretation is deeply influenced by the state of the nervous system. A dysregulated nervous system perceives threat everywhere. A regulated nervous system perceives choice. Breathing is the fastest way to influence that system. Reading Stoic philosophy slows cognition. Deep breathing slows physiology. Together, they cultivate emotional resilience not through suppression, but through steadiness. And this brings us to a powerful realization. Ancient wisdom traditions were never fragmented. They didn't separate mind, body, and spirit. They understood that healing happens when everything moves together. Yoga regulates the body. Breath regulates the nervous system. Stoicism regulates perception. Alignment restores coherence. This is the foundation of a life well lived. So let this be your reminder, not just today, but every time life feels heavy or rushed or overwhelming. You don't need to figure everything out. You don't need to push harder or become someone else. You only need to come back to yourself. And the fastest way home has always been your breath. Breathe when your mind feels loud. Breathe when your body feels tight. Breathe when you don't know what to do next. Because every slow inhale is an act of self-trust. And every long exhale is your body saying, I remember how to heal. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video. It helps this work reach the people who are ready for it. Subscribe to the channel if you're drawn to conversations about breath, healing, ancient wisdom, alignment, and living a life that feels calm, connected, and deeply meaningful. And share this with someone you love who might need permission to slow down and breathe again. And as you move back into your day, carry this gently with you. You don't have to change your entire life at once. You don't have to heal everything today. Healing often begins quietly, in moments no one else can see, in a single conscious breath, in the choice to soften instead of brace, in the willingness to trust your body rather than battle it. Each time you breathe deeply, you are teaching your nervous system a new story, one of safety, one of trust, one of possibility. Over time, those small moments of presence weave together into something powerful, a calmer body, a clearer mind, and a life that feels less rushed and more real. Let your breath be your anchor. Let ancient wisdom be your guide. And remember, you are always one breath away from coming home to yourself.